Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering 3 craft deck list. This one is using a combo or just playstyle that I frequent, which is just being allergic to creatures in your deck in every way conceivably possible. But it's a Sultai mill list featuring Titan's Nest cheating out things that are incredibly expensive much sooner than they deserve to be out. The only problem with this deck so far is that the UI is just not great, I guess is how we'll look at it when using Titan's Nest to get the extra mana that you can get from it. This deck goes off very fast if it's allowed to go off, and it has a decent amount of control. I sideboarded a bunch of counter spells instead of creature hate, because if you run into any sort of control list, you'll be able to deal with it that way. But honestly, it hasn't really been that much of an issue, but you can just take out all of your black removal and just throw in counter spells. But let's go over the list. We're running 3 Blood Chiefs, 3 Heartless Act, 2 Eliminates, which you could argue cut out, Curate, which is really important for putting things into our graveyard. It's basically a scry. It's a scry 2, put it in the graveyard. So it's not even scry, it's surveil. It's surveil without being surveil, for those of you that remember. And then draw a card. So very good. Anticipate is a sorcery speed version of this. I find that having the Curate up just for options on my opponent's turn typically seems to be a little bit stronger. So I'm running that instead. You could change this around to run the Anticipate instead. I think it's Anticipate. No, it is not. It is Strategic Planning, actually, is the card that I'm thinking of. We're running our win con. Tutelage, Teferi's Tutelage. So anytime we draw a card, they discard a card. This is how we win. Thirst for Meeting, super great. Discard cards unless you discard enchantment card. I almost never discard an enchantment card. I want cards in the graveyard. That's what we want. So drawing 3, discarding 2, normally not the greatest thing in the world for 3, but here it is extremely strong. I would say this is a core part of the deck. Cultivate, just to get a little bit of ramp, help us find those lands that we need. If we can ramp us up. I mean, having 5 mana on turn 4, playing a Titan's Nest on curve on turn 4, and then having 1 mana up, it means that we can pay for any single mana cost card if we put anything in the graveyard at that point. So, you know, we can get a Tefs down, we can throw down a Thirst for Meeting, we play another Cultivate. It's very, very strong. So having that build up is really good. I'm running E2 Extinctions. It's a really expensive removal. It does give us some Planeswalker interaction, which is why I'm running 3 copies of Blood Chief's Thirst. And we get to look at the top card of our library, Scry effect, put it into the graveyard. Surveil effect. Just works well with the deck. It's come in handy a few times, and sometimes it just ends up being removal, just a murder for 1 more. What's nice about this is it's only 1 colored mana cost, 1 swamp, 1 black mana. So we actually can end up playing this on turn 4 with the Titan's Nest. And Angel's Insight, it's not a card that a lot of people use, but this allows us to just go, yeah, we milled your whole deck in 1 turn. If this resolves and stays on the board, even without Titan's Nest, is such a threat on its own, and people waste removal on it. This is a bonus card. If it resolves, awesome for us. If it resolves and then they burn removal on it that's not being burnt on Titan's Nest or Tutelage, even better. It's not necessary to win, but it definitely exacerbates the effect of winning. Shadow's Verdict, we struggle with aggro, hence why all the removal through here. This also gets rid of them for any of those reanimation decks, anything like that. So mono black, all those wonderful decks struggle against this, because you just throw down one of these and their whole deck, their whole board's gone, and then their whole graveyard is gone. So their graveyard interaction, because this gets rid of everything out of their graveyard as well for 3 or less. So very good. It also gets rid of Planeswalkers with mana value 3 or less, which is important, and it's come in handy a few times. And then Alrund's Epiphany. Everybody should know this card at this point. Just, I get to sit here and take another turn, and playing this and taking an extra turn 5, what have you is extremely strong, and you can combo these back to back to back, because in reality with Titan's Nest down, this costs 2 blue. That's it. So really good, really good. If you can get this to resolve after a Titan's Nest is down, you basically get a free turn to do whatever the hell you want with, as long as you have draw, which sometimes I feel like we could use a little bit more, and I've considered taking out the eliminates because we already have so much removal in the first place. But so far this deck list has worked out for us. And then Overflowing Insight, one of my more favorite cards, just because it's target player. So even if we're about to mill ourselves because we've drawn so much, we can just mill our opponent. We can just say, hey, you draw 7 cards. So pretty nice. I've won probably 1 or 2 games that way, but this is draw 14 cards with Tefs down, which is ridiculous. So that's mill 28 cards for 3 blue mana with Titan's Nest and Tefs down, so 5 blue mana. And speaking of mana, as that's the big thing about this deck, our mana base isn't the greatest. Why? Because I don't have the rares to throw at wild cards, especially for lands that are going to rotate out soon. So this is just some scry effects, help us dig a little bit from our land sources, which is always nice. I'm not running any of the newer ones. The Zagoth Atrium is pretty fantastic, because if you end up drawing it, it's a draw effect. If it's late game, you don't really need it. The World Tree comes in handy. I might end up running 2 of these. You can run more, but it's just nice because if this does resolve and you have 6 or more lands, which you should, you don't have to worry about like, okay, do I have 2 black mana, 3 blue mana? It solves all that. Becomes very easy to pilot in that regard. So mana base definitely could use a little bit of love. There's definitely too much green in here. If I had to argue, it definitely needs more blue sources. But you know, this is what it is. This is what we've got. Feel free to improve upon this when you play it. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to show it to you guys. It's very sudden when this deck pops off. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll give you a few games to check it out on. Hope you enjoy. All right. Looks like a decent starting hand. We have 1 of every color, so I think this is a keep. We have everything we need here for the most part. Not sure we should just slam Castle Octane or not, but I think we'll go with the Malady first, and we'll keep that too. We're going first. I have not seen this yet. I haven't seen this art before. Interesting. Okay. And I think we can bottom that, honestly. So yeah, mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. The effect can't reduce the mana and can cost less than 1. Target creature can't block. They foretold. We will send this down for blue because we need all the blue, and we'll let the party begin. I am actually happy they're running creatures. I'm happy to get rid of the Heartless Act, honestly. Next turn, it looks like no matter what, we're gonna go ahead and just basically skip our turn, so maybe that was a misplay. And they're just foretelling some more. Oh, and we're not going to send it in tapped, so we'll just slam it. And they're running all kinds of awfulness. I have never seen this deck list before, but they apparently are on 2 colors. They're on red blue, and they are just Missville. All right. Honestly, I'm going to take this. Let's ramp it up. So what we can do is we can play that, basically skip our turn, but we're going to go ahead and find a swamp and then an island. Normally I'd grab both islands here, but we're going to throw that down. Now we have 1 of every color, and we can just begin to mill. The problem is that they have counter spells, I would think, but maybe they don't. I actually have no idea what it is they're doing. So I'm just going to relax. I'm gonna wait to see what they do. You know what? Let's just send it. How's that sound? What we're gonna do is we're gonna use the super clunky Titan's Nest right now and just exile some stuff. They do not have anything, which is fantastic. And we're just gonna mill them for a ton. Now, normally having like, you could argue that the Sea Restoration Gate or something like that would be better, but we actually want an overfilled hand so we can discard cards, because Titan's Nest is gonna get us a value. So we will chuck that, and we will chuck this. We do not need those. We got ourselves plenty of removal now, no problemo, and some lands. Unfortunately, our opponent just really hasn't played the game yet. They finally got their secondary source. We're gonna graveyard that. And we're just going to go ahead, put this down, play that up, and then win the game. Yep, that's game. This UI is atrocious, but we'll get to where we need to go regardless. So we draw 14 cards now, and they mill for 28. They only have 21 left, and that's GG. Not like they really did much of anything, but even in the scenario where they could have, at this rate, we just win regardless. They did have counter spells. And there we go. And then we discard 12 cards, which would just fuel if for some reason that didn't win. Oops. And we did one too many. If that didn't fuel our win condition, that certainly would. That's 14 mana just sitting there for free in the graveyard. It's incredible. So yeah, game one went pretty well. I guess we'll go ahead and see what the next opponent has in store for us. A bit of a rocky start, but we should be able to make it work. The Cultivate should shore things up pretty nicely for us, so let's go ahead and keep. And everything comes in tapped, basically, no matter what. So let's give ourselves the most options. Basically, we're playing a turn behind. I think the only reason that we end up keeping this hand is because, well, we played first. So we can afford to play that turn behind. I already want to concede. It's just another 3 million IQ rogue player still playing rogues. And they still have the smoothest brains. It's so nice. Ah, God. Imagine playing the same deck for literally like 7 months, maybe longer. It's incredible. Little do they know that Tefs actually helps us a ton here. So that is a-okay with me. Because they just give us 1 million mana now. All we have to do is hit a Tefs and we should be okay. Or they could just be literal gods and just have their every single thing that they need in their hand at the start. Because, you know, rogue players just need every assistance possible from the algorithm that constantly dicks you and I, the viewer, on just never ever drawing lands when we need them, never drawing those 17 things of removal that you have, yada yada yada. We can't even play this because we don't have a double white source, or blue source, but I'll take it anyway, just in case, as they say, because here we should be able to do it by putting one of these down. The World Tree activates, gives us an extra one. We go ahead and pop this out, and then we can go ahead and take our extra turn. We're gonna go ahead and mute the idiot. I hate these fucking people, man. This UI is so incredibly clunky. And there we go. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of the eliminate. And I don't need to thin my deck, so we will just do this. We'll just send it because we can. Here's a good argument to run Thassa's Oracle. Cloud Seer, that's fine. At least it's not, I mean, it is rogues, but it's discount rogues. Is really interesting. Oh, yeah. Okay, so how do we want to do this? First things first, we'll play this. Chuck the cultivate. We don't really care about that anymore. Go ahead and play that. Go ahead and slam down our all runs. I think this was a miss sequence. I didn't see how many lands we had up. I assume it was 5. So what we could have done was we could have overflowing insight here instead. So we would have had more to play with. We would have had a better hand. So this is probably a mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and just activate this first. Or am I? No, we're just gonna send it. Yeah, I think that was a mistake. Might have cost us the game, honestly. And then we hit literal dog shit. Amazing. We actually hit nothing of value off the top. Absolutely incredible. Not one thing that's gonna be worth a damn. Insane. So whatever we put on the top literally doesn't matter. Well, I guess that's not true because we could Castle Locthwain. But all right, we should have kept it on top. That was stupid of me just to bottom it like that. This will give us 2 scry effects at the start of our turn, so we'll throw that down. And then we'll go ahead and double attack. So can I get rid of 14 cards in 1 turn? It's a pretty high chance. All we had to do is hit like 1 curate and we were fine. Mills 2 cards and we're fine. Nice. So we win. I definitely think that was a missed sequence, so we don't deserve to win, but it feels good playing against a Dimir rogue deck that is, you know, 9,000 IQ. Just the same deck for, I think, the better part of a year. It's literally the same deck with like 4 cards rotated in and out. So that, it's not even in ranked, like it's in standard play, free play, and you're playing Dimir rogues. Woo! I don't know about saying what the next opponent has in store, because if it's going to be that, I really don't want to deal with it. But let's see what the next opponent has in store for us. Another pretty slow start. I'm not sure that I want to keep this, but I'm also not sure that we can just get rid of it. So we will keep. We have Shadow's Verdict. They do have Luris, so I think this is okay. We've just got to be able to get to where we need to go. Luris will ruin, or not ruin, Shadow's Verdict will ruin this Luris deck. Yep, there's the Archfiend's Vessel. All this is fine and dandy to deal with. And I will go ahead and play... Go with Castle. And we will go ahead and just play another blue source, slam down our Titan's Nest, or not our Titan's Nest, our Tutelage, and maybe we'll get lucky enough to find something to go ahead and get us an untapped land off the top. If not, no big deal. We'll get to where we need to go. Honestly, the Blood Chief's Thirst could be good here. I don't think Castle Lochwain is really going to do too much for us, so we'll chuck that and keep the Temple of Deceit. Now I'm going to top deck a Swamp, as is a tradition, so that would have been a play to keep it, but we'll see. Problem with Tutelage here is that's going to put Archfiend's Vessels and other horrible, awful things into their graveyard that they're going to want to get back with Luris, but maybe I'll get lucky enough and they will put Luris into their hand and basically skip their turn, buying us time to just continue to miss everything. So we will go ahead and do that. Honestly, don't think we need that, so we will bottom it, and then we're going to go ahead and throw that down just so we can get it out a little bit earlier. And we're trying our damnedest to get what we need, but this is what I talked about originally in the deck opening, is that if we actually just had a better mana source, these games wouldn't be as difficult as they were, so we wouldn't just be passing constantly, but what can you do? All right. So we are just going to play this. I'll just keep that on top because we're going to just go ahead and cultivate. And give me the blue sources, please. And we will go ahead and... They'll basically guaranteed replay this next turn, and then I can just get rid of it with Shadow's Verdict, so I think I will. I'm like, ah, fool! But little do they know. Little do they know. Yep, and they go ahead and just slam it. It'll immediately make the 5/5. Perfecto. And we eat a bit of damage, but we're still okay. I only have 3 cards in the graveyard. We have 7 mana down right now. So we actually have enough to Titan's Nest into all runs. I don't think that's what I want to do, honestly. We'll do into Shadow's Verdict, actually, instead. The reason for that is we might need those blockers, and I don't want to exile them. So, important to note that I got rid of cards in their graveyard too, so any sort of recursion theme that they were trying to go for there, it's gone, but their hand is filled. So we're in a bit of trouble, and they don't have any creatures in hand? They do not have any creatures in hand. Let's go. Okay. So instead of playing that land, we're going to just go ahead and slam the Tutelage. And that is why right there. We can play our all runs Epiphany. Get rid of some cards out of our graveyard. Take the turn that we need. And we're going to graveyard that just to continue to fuel our hatred of milling our opponent. And the reason that we're doing this is because I would rather just pay one. So if we have to Castle Vantress, we can. And we're not going to need to. Discard 2 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we're good. Those will go into the graveyard. Pay for themselves. Fantastico. And then our opponent's whole deck disappears and we win the game. Just like that. And they scoop. Don't really blame them. And there you go. So that's a perfect example of how Shadow's Verdict and why I chose it instead of like Extinction Event or something like that. Mainly because I don't have any Extinction Events. But Shadow's Verdict also does really help with the aggro decks that this deck really struggles against. And if it resolves, it typically just swings the board state back into our favor entirely. So that was a great showcase of that. And let's go ahead and see what the next opponent has in store for us. This looks like a fantastic hand, honestly. So that means I'm going to lose. So let's go ahead and give it a go. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Probably going to get some barrenness on our land draw, perhaps. Just get none. Is that what's gonna happen? We'll go ahead and just play this in case we do end up getting a green source or something else that changes our decision here. A world tree. I'm not sure what we want to do, but we will force them to make their decision here. So that way they don't grab up any sort of awfulness that I don't want to deal with. Like some exile effects for the Titan's Nest. That is a-okay. I am actually going to go ahead and play this here. Next turn, we should be able to get the Titan's Nest down. I am going to bottom that, however. And they just send it. That is okay. And this probably gets destroyed immediately. If I had to wager a guess, I don't think it actually stays very long. And we're good. All right. So unfortunately, we're not making a whole lot of headway here. So let's just do this. All of those cards are not cards I would like to deal with anytime soon. That's fine. And I will library that, I think. We'll put a card into the graveyard. Go ahead and chuck that. And then we will send out for a Thirst for Meaning. Hopefully get some lands. There we go. And I think we're going to go ahead and get rid of the Castle Vantress and the Blood Chiefs. If we had a forest up and one additional land, I would have kept the Castle Vantress because it comes in not tapped, but I think the Scry here is going to be worth it. We will keep that on top, probably just to throw it into the graveyard. And then all runs, if I had to guess. Is that the play? No. I don't want our opponent to stabilize, so let's keep the pressure up and try and find something that's worthwhile here. let's just go ahead and grab up our lands. And then we will keep up our Heartless Act. I could thirst for meaning here, but I don't think it's worthwhile doing. And we're just gonna kind of let it go. And nothing? Really? Interesting. So they just have a ton of removal in their hand. And honestly, we can pay out of here. With the thirst as well, I think that's okay. There we go, all earns for 2. These birds die immediately, I'm sure. Happy to have some sort of interaction. Get rid of the last few cards out of here just on the cheap, in case we get anything good that we can play from our hand. If not, it will pay for itself. And we will decline that, and we will put this and this into there. Don't worry, we do get another turn still. And there's one card that I definitely don't want to deal with, so we're going to go even faster. That doesn't look good. And another all runs. Okay. That makes the decision for us. We're not done yet because there is 2 mana up, so we will foretell it. And what do we got on top? I will take that. So any sort of draw effect that we get will be extremely valuable now. We'll go ahead and play our other all runs. Not the world's best top deck, if I'm gonna tell the truth, but our hand is so empty that it could end up paying off. So let's see where it takes us. We'll just send these. They might just destroy them. I have no idea what is in their hand. And that is... They're probably going to play Pelucranos. This is the safest bet, so we'll keep it. I would have to assume that they just play Pelucranos here. Yep, and there's the removal. That is fine. Now this reads when it dies, so when we exile it with E2 Extinction, they will not get the added benefit from this. So next turn they will be able to do that, but as of right now they still can't do anything. So that is fine with me. We will graveyard that. And we will use this to draw 2 cards. We cannot use Titan's Nest for this, however. Because it has to be spell that's 1 or more colors or without X. And then we missed, but we continue to mill, so. Still not quite where we need to be. Castle Lochthwain could be where it's at. And they go for the Elder Gargaroth instead. And I immediately get rid of that. Don't want any of that. And we'll throw the Shadow's Verdict. Don't care about that at all. Don't care about that at all. Oh my god. Okay. There's 7 cards in this graveyard, so I'll be happy to use some of these here. We draw an extra. That's not gonna be quite enough. But it's pretty much over at this point. I don't think there's any way that our opponent really wins. So we'll just leave these back. They're exiling a bunch of cards. That's fine. It comes in with a bunch of +1 counters on it, so we'll just destroy target creature with no +1/+1 counters. And there we go. There's a card that we can use. And that's game. Yeah, we won't torture our opponent. They scoop anyway. And that's it. So there we go. There was a very peculiar, I think all of that really ended up hedging on not letting them grab something that could have removed our Titan Nest at the beginning, because we drew very poorly. And I think the argument to keep the Castle Vantress would have been better than our Scry tool. It would have just gotten us more value in the long term. So I might lean towards that decision a little bit more as time goes on. But either way, GG's to our opponent. Let's see what the next one has in store for us. I have no complaints with this hand, so I think we will keep. I also think I have audio on that shouldn't be on. Let's go ahead and get rid of, maybe not that. Let's do, there we go. I think that's a little bit better. There's like some random thudding and things going on. My apologies if that's in the other, in the other bits of the video. I've removed it. And so far, so good. Let's go ahead and play this. We have a Heartless Act up and ready to go. I probably cultivate first. It depends. I think getting the tutelage down will be better. Just so we can eat the Banishing Light immediately. We don't need to destroy this in any real way other than just like, hey, we have removal. We'll go ahead and play that as a blue source. And we will grab up a blue and a there. There we go. Got plenty of yield and lands. And let's see what we get. And we're going to go ahead and chuck that. And there we go. Still nothing. Okay, a Bosri Cat, and they have a Shatter the Sky and a Frondland Felidar. Interesting. Okay. Send this. What do we get? We will decline. And we will chuck this and this. Shadow's Verdict is very strong here. Because they're going to want to fill the board with cheap little guys that they can pump up. And we'll grab the Island. Just kidding. I mean swamp. I mean forest. I mean we'll grab a Monosaurus. There we go. I'm doing it. Yeah, here's all the wonderful 1/1s and 2/2s, and the Conclave would normally be really scary because the +1 counter is just being doubled and tripled and quadrupled, but not too scary for us here. We got not quite enough, so we will just send it. Go ahead and get rid of that Planeswalker too. And that's why Shadow's Verdict is in this deck. As I talked about before, it is just so strong and deals with these cards so well. And they foretell what I can only assume is a Doomscar? I really don't know what that would be. And we'll play this, and then they lose next turn if they don't get rid of it, as we will mill them for 28. They'll have 2 cards left in their hand, really. Or in their entire deck, excuse me. They might scoop here. If I had to wager a guess, we will graveyard that. Oh, what? +1/+1s for you. Oh, and we got the Curate off the top. We're going to go ahead and draw 3 million cards. One of these is going to be an untapped land for sure, so they are just dead. And they scoop. Don't really blame them for it, as they were very clearly dead. The writing was on the wall. Either way, GG's. We'll go ahead and get into the next one and see what our opponent has in store. Yeah, this is keepable, but I'm scared of not having a green source. Let's play that because there's no reason not to. Give them the illusion that we're on mono black, which it seems like they are as well. It might be Golgari Death Touch. We'll have to wait and see a little bit more information. This land art is just beautiful. I think it is indeed mono black. Wow, absolute madman. So we will play this. I will thirst for meaning. And we'll find our green source. And honestly, yep. So greedy. We'll decline though. We'll get rid of this. And all runs, we might be in danger, and by might I mean we're going really slow against a deck that's going to go really fast and probably kill us with devotion. The Gray Merchant just come out and one-shot us, so we have to be careful in that regard. And they have a stop counter on my draw step for some reason. Interesting. Sure thing. We might be able to swing this. If we can get... We have to cultivate next turn. But it's not looking great, because if they play the Great Merchant, they'll hit us for 5. And they're 1 land away from it right now. They keep passing like this, though. That's good. And then they just, like, brain freezes. Are they playing on full control? Like, what are they doing? Very interesting. I'm going to send this here. Just to see. We know we're taking the Tefs, but we don't know what the next card is. If it's a non-tappable land, we'll probably snag it. Put that in the graveyard. Okay. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7. So we would be good. So I am actually going to cultivate here, so we'll just keep that on top. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So we'll be able to Titan's Nest and like Overflowing Insight. Or Tefs and Tefs. But our HP is getting rather low, and I assume they have some Feed the Swarms or something in there. So let's play this first. And we can get Tutelage down, but that's it. So are they going to start clinging to dust? That's fine. I don't care about you getting rid of cards at all. Make a decision. It's okay. I believe in you. The Shadow's Verdict is really nice to draw here. We will get rid of... Get rid of the land. They don't have a Feed the Swarm? We're very close to dead. If they play the Gray Merchant here, we just die, but they're missing a land for it. Okay. They're gonna tap out? That would be nice. These people who just can't make decisions, man. Stop playing in full control. Please. Please, I beg you. Stop playing in full control. It hurts. So that keeps us alive just in case. I will chuck. We only need one of these to win. Unfortunately, we don't have enough blue sources to do both unless we top deck one that's untapped, which would be phenomenal. Okay. Ooh, a library. Thank you. So now do we have enough? As I didn't do the count, so the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We actually have just enough. Look at this auto tapper. I was gonna tap an extra blue source for no reason. All right, there we go. Say goodbye to your deck. So with one Teft Tutelage and the Ageless Insight, that has 28 cards milled, but with two. Yeah. That's their whole deck in one shot. It's 56. All right. So their deck, yeah, it is a devotion deck, so I was right. And it was the Great Merchant. So yeah, we were in trouble. But they even had a Grim Tutor in there. And that's it. Our opponent explodes. All right, we got really lucky. We hit 2 lands off of the one tutelage, and I think that's what saved us. But honestly, we're 1 HP. The Shadow's Verdict also really helped us there too. So either way, GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck. It's kind of wonky to pilot. You really have to pay attention to what's going on. And it's nice to just kind of gas out with your graveyard, but one of the things that I think would really benefit from is probably more draw sources. I really like to have the cultivate in here. You could put something else in, like a Eureka, that's a new one of the newer cards, or the strategic plannings to kind of shore this up and see where it takes you from there. More draw is definitely nice. But either way, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope it inspires you guys to make some awful, horrible stuff that I will then queue into. And yeah, good luck in your games, and I'll catch you in the next video.